Students, today in this class, we are going to discuss the rest story of the second chapter, Flamingo, the book which is prescribed in your syllabus for class 12. We had seen in the last class that when Anish Jung asks, Sahib, that you have worn this pair of shoes, from where you have got them? Sahib intends to hide the source from the author, the narrator. He says, I have not stolen them. I have found them somewhere. This means that those who are poor, they fear that the charge of thievery may be put on them. This is also one of the states of poverty. Now the story moves 5 years ahead. Now Sahib is 14 years old. After 5 years, Anish Jung meets him. On his hand, there was a tin can. Its quantity, its volume is just 2 liters. When they come in front of each other, Sahib says, now I work in that tea stall down the road. The owner pays me rupees 800 and all my meals. The tin can, whose capacity is just 2 liters, seems to be heavier than the plastic bag which he used to carry on his shoulder in the streets of Delhi. Because that plastic bag was his own. And this tin can, it belongs to the owner of the tea stall. And believe me, that if the tea stall would have opened at 5 in the morning, Sahib would have to go there at 5 in the morning. Otherwise, he will be threatened to throw out from his work. Number 1. Number 2, he would be abused by the tea owner. He would be beaten by the tea stall owner. And this is the fact. The carefree smile, which used to be there on his face, has disappeared. Because now he has to follow the timetable as given by him by the tea stall owner. Sahib is no longer the master of his own fate. He is no longer his own master. This is the end of the first story. Under the second chapter, Lost Spring, Memories of Stolen Childhood. In the very first class, I told you that this chapter, Lost Spring, has got 2 short stories. The first one we have already discussed, that is, I sometimes find a rupee in the garbage. In this story, you have seen Sahib, you have seen the narrator Anish Jung. You have also come to know that Sahib and his mother, they came to India from Bangladesh as migrants, and they reside in the slum area of Simapuri, which is situated at the outskirts of Delhi. Now come to the second chapter of Flamingo and the second story under the second chapter. The title of the second chapter and the second story is I Want to Drive a Car. This story is the story of child laborers who reside in Firozabad. You know, Firozabad is famous for the glass bangle factories. All the bangles across India and abroad, they are all made in the factories of Firozabad. And you will be surprised to know that 20,000 children below the age of 14, they work in the glass bangle factories of Firozabad. Of course, child labor is a crime and severe punishment is to be given to those who practice this act. But the fact is that still in India, child labor is increasing day by day. Its pace is rampant. And the second story under the second chapter depicts the fate, the life, the works of laborers in the glass bangle factories. In this chapter, you will find Mukesh. He is the protagonist, he is the central character, or you may say he is the hero of the second story under second chapter. While other children of Firozabad work in the glass bangle factories, Mukesh denies to do so. When Anish Jung asks him, why don't you want to work in the glass bangle factories? He says, no. I will become a mechanic. I will work in a garage. Then I will learn how to drive and I'll become a driver. The second story starts with the line, Mukesh insists on being his own master. There is contradiction. There is juxtaposition in the last line of the first story and the first line of the second story. Remember the last line of the first story? Sahib is no longer his own master. And see the first line of the second story. Mukesh insists on being his own master. Whenever Mukesh talks to the narrator, he looks straight into her eyes and then he talks to her. This means that though he is poor, though his relatives work in the glass bangle factories, and they have been working there since the last 50 years, but he is determined that he will not work there and he will work as independent laborer. He will work in a garage. He will learn how to repair vehicles and then he will drive a car. He will become a driver. There is a term life force which makes the difference between the two characters, Sahib and Mukesh, who are just opposite of each other. Sahib surrenders himself. He has surrendered himself to the fate, to the fortune, to the life. And he does not struggle to improve his life, improve his social strata, social level. And Mukesh, who is full of life force, he denies to surrender before life. He denies to surrender himself to the fate. That is called life force. Life force when you have limited resources, when you have limited access to the facilities, but you have the tenacity to change your lot, to change your life, to change your future, to change your fortune. Such type of person is Mukesh. He has the life force, he has that guts, that courage that he challenges the old age tradition of his family. Every member of his family has been working in the glass bangle factories, but Mukesh denies to do so. And Anisha, she asks, why don't you want to work in the glass bangle factories? And he says, I don't want to live a life of bonded laborers. I don't like their life. Life is very difficult in Firozabad. 20,000 children work in the glass bangle factories in the dim light in the room of 2 by 2. Firozabad. The temperature is extreme. The weather is extreme. The climate is extreme. Extreme climate means you would have studied in your geography classes in class 9th, 10th that the weather is too hot in summer and too cold in winter. And when it rains cats and dogs. Means it rains heavily. So in the summer season, sitting in front of furnace, you know, the fireplace, and welding the glass pieces into bangles, it's a very difficult task. And that in the dim light of candle, in the dim light or light of lantern. Day and night they keep on working there for 18 hours, 20 hours a day, welding the glass pieces. When you look carefully, a bangle, a glass bangle, you'll find there is a joint. That joint is because of that welding process. And the second step after welding is that of polishing. Here, polishing of bangles doesn't mean to put the brush into paint and to color the bangles into white, into yellow, into green, into violet, into magenta, into red. No. Polishing means there is a tool with blade in it which keeps on revolving at a very fast speed. And the bangles are brought near the blade and different types of curves and designs are made using that blade. And you can feel the ordeal, you can feel the difficulty level while polishing the bangles. What is that difficulty level? What is that ordeal? While polishing, the dust particles of glass enters the body of the laborers through their nose, through their mouth, and into the eyes also. And you will study that most of the population of most of the laborers of Firozabad, they go blind before they become adult. I told you that most of the laborers are below 14 years age and they work in the glass bangle factories. They lose their eyesight before they become adult. Most of them dies because of asthma, because of stomach problem, because of liver problem, because of a number of other deadly disease. But they have no option. To earn bread and butter, to earn 2 meals a day, they will have to work there in the glass bangle factories of Firozabad. And they do so to make a living, to earn a living. One day, Mukesh invites the narrator Anish Jung to his home. And at his request, Anish Jung goes to his home. In the name of home, there was tattered roof, tattered and what we can say tarpaulin's wall. In the home, when the gate opens, we find a woman of 20 years cooking food for the family. When she looks at Mukesh and Anish Jung, she spreads smile on her lips. Her eyes were filled with tears. Tears not because she was poor, but because the smoke which filled the entire house. And that time, when this story was written, any PM of this country has not announced Ujjwala Yojana. So the female of the lower caste, the female of the outcast, the female of the poors, they will have to cook the food, burning dry leaves, burning the branches of trees, and so on. She welcomes with tears on her eyes and smile on her lips. Then the narrator talks to his grandfather and he says, at least we have this home here in Firozabad. He is blind. Working in that glass vinyl factories, he has become blind. He doesn't have his eyesight. And the grandmother of Mukesh says to Anish Jung that she has never eaten ample food. She has never eaten stomach-filled food in her life. Though the family is working in the glass bangle factories day and night. Now see the poverty level. How much poor they are. How much poor they are. Then the narrator asks, why don't you form union? Why don't you ask for more wages, more salary, more money? Then the grandfather of Mukesh says that if anyone tries to form union, police beats them like anything. That's why they are not organized. They are not able to form cooperatives. And they work under pressure and compulsion. As bonded laborers do. Towards the end of this story, one day Anish Jung asks Mukesh, why do you want to become a driver? Why do you want to drive a car? Why don't you become a pilot and fly aeroplane? The first time, Mukesh looks into the ground and says, "No, I won't fly aeroplane. I will drive a car." And it is written, it is printed there towards the end of this story that few aeroplanes fly over the sky of Firozabad, but you may see a number of cars running on the road of that city. How can Mukesh become a pilot? He has never gone to school. All his father has given him the training how to weld the bangles, how to polish them. There is utter poverty. There is perplexed poverty. There is confusing poverty. So earning two times of meal is better than working or studying in school. Thank you very much. This is the end of the second chapter. In the next class, I will teach you the third chapter of Flamingo. And I request you to revise in the best possible way. Try to write down the important points which I have discussed in this class and in the last classes. Thank you. Take care.